There we go. Hi, I'm Gunter. David's my partner, and I'm gonna try to get a jump on this and get some of this done. And when I see him later tomorrow, we can get the rest of it done in class. But we broke our Mr. Thrifty out into two different segments of I'm going to do the axial skeleton, he's going to do the appendicular skeleton. So I'm kind of doing the core, and he'll just do all the extensive ones on the outside. So where's my list? So on my list, I'm going to just start off the list, start pointing out these muscles and what they do and their action and origin. Um, so we'll start with the spinalis. And the spinalis, the longissimus, and the iliocostalis are all part of the erecti spinae group. Um, the spinalis starts off at the nuchal. Oh, wait, let me see. At the nuchal ligament, and comes down the occipital bone, and there's insertion and attaches on the spinous processes of the vertebrae, thoracic and cervical. So most of these muscles actually do both flexion and extension. And like the spinalis during flexion will pull the head back, and rewind. During flexion, oh, I think I did say that. During flexion, it'll pull the head back, and during extension, it'll support for the head to go forward. And the longissimus actually complements the spinalis, but the origin is actually at the bottom. So the origin is the iliac crest, dorsal sacrum, um, as well as it attaches. Actually, I think I'm blocking. It attaches to all these spots right here, which the sacral spinous process and the lumbar spinous processes down here. The longissimus attaches to all of them, and it basically functions as to turn your head and left and right. So, yeah. So it attaches to the left and right side of the occipital bone. It inserts there, and so it basically will help and assist in turning your head left and right. One thing I realized I forgot to mention is that the longissimus also attaches and inserts to all these ribs as it goes up, um, as it assists in depressing for air. The last one in the erecti spinae group is the ilicostalis, and it is very similar to the longissimus because it splits and goes up the side like this. Can you see that? Yeah. But its origin is the ribs, and so it ends up attaching to the cervical transverse process, and it assists in depression of the ribs for breathing. So the next group, let's see, here's our paper. So spinalis, longissimus, iliacostis, other posterior muscles, the serratus posterior inferior. Oh yeah. Okay. So the serratus posterior inferior compresses. I think it's 9 through. Oh, I guess I can count them, but I think it's 9 through 12, and it assists in compressing those for assisting in breathing. Um, and the origin of it is it starts at I think 11 and goes to 12, and it's just this section here. Um, then the superior one is up here. You know, I was going to say, wait, I don't see it. Here's a superior one, but we'll talk about that one in a second. So let's see, where does it attach? It attaches. The origin of it is the spinous process here in the vertical vertebral column. The insertion is on the ribs 11 and 12, in between them, underneath on the bottom of each of them. So let's go serrated. Oh, what's on my list? Where is it? Oh yeah, serratus posterior superior. So that's this top one up here. So the top one assists in the elevation of these top ribs 2 through 5. Hard to see. Sorry, I wish I could zoom in, but I can't. It assists in the elevation of these ribs for breathing or when you go like that. They start at the spinous process of C7 to 13. So from 7 to 13, I guess you can see that. And it inserts through in ribs 2 through 5. So, or 6 maybe it is. No. So it inserts, so it's just this top section up here. So the semispinalis helps in assisting in the rotation of the head and neck to the opposite side. So there's two of them. There's one over here on this side, and then there's one on this side. And basically they assist in the rotation of the head. And they attach, where do they start? They start C7 to T5, T6, C7 to T6. And they end up, so they start here and they end up here at the occipital bone, the bottom of the head. And there's two of them. So they help during rotation on both sides, and they also help in extension for the neck going forward and back, or sorry, the head going forward and backward. So the next one is the splenius capitis. It starts actually at the temporal bone. You see that at the temporal bone over here on both sides, and also attached to the nuchal ligament, and then goes down and inserts on these spinous processes of T1. Well, it's not on here, but T1 through 3. So then it attaches there, and it basically does the same thing as the semispinalis, but it rotates the head to the same side. So it will rotate the head that way. What else? So we got origin, insertion, and what it does. Okay, what's next on the list? I guess I could just look at these, but trapezius. All right. So the trapezius muscle is exciting, I guess. So it has 3 layers. So it has the top layer, which I guess they call it the upper layer, is used for the elevation of the scapula. So it brings the scapula up. If you shrug your shoulders. Then the middle one, it is used to bring your shoulder in, so adduction. And the lower fibers are used to help in depression and in breathing. They attach to your ribs and act in depression when you exhale and inhale. So the trapezius, since it's a big muscle, it kind of attaches all over. So it starts up here at the occipital bone, the nuchal ligament, and it runs down here. It ends up attaching. It ends up ending in inserting. It attaches the clavicle, scapula, but then ultimately all the way down from T1 to T12 is its insertion. So the last one on this little first page at least. Superficial muscles of the back. We did trapezius. So latissimus dorsi was just right here. So the latissimus dorsi starts um, in the center basically, and it's a sacral and lumbar spines on the side right here. Gosh, I keep covering the thing. Right here is where it starts, and then it comes around and it attaches to the humerus over here on the other side. And it basically acts as to bring the arm in, adduction, and or extend the arm or medial rotation of the arm. Um, Pretty simple, but it's a big muscle too. So the first muscle we'll go with is the big one, the six-pack muscle, the rectus abdominis. The origin, it starts down here in the pubis, and it goes up and it attaches to the sternum, the xiphoid process at the costal cartilages. And it's to do sit-ups, basically to do sit-ups. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. Sorry, I had to restart because I had to readjust one of these muscles. Looked like it was in the wrong place. So we're moving on to the internal oblique, right? Yeah, internal oblique. So internal oblique, it's right here on the inside. It comes around. It starts. It basically is used to turn the trunk left and right, and it helps in the wall, in the breathing, in the what is it, the viscera. Helps with breathing and depression and compression. Um, it starts at the inguinal ligament, and it inserts in the linea alba. So it's like it wraps around on the inside, and it comes around. You can't see where it inserts, but it inserts in the linea alba. And then the next one is the external oblique, which is the big muscle on the side, and it also does the rotation and flexion of the trunk. Um, but it starts on the ribs and the costal cartilage between 5 and 12, but it also comes and ends or inserts at the linea alba. The next on the list. Transverse abdominis, that's over here. So all these things basically do the same thing. So the transverse abdominis is like a compressor. It compresses the anterior abdominal wall on the outside of the internal oblique. So right here, it's all inside here. So it helps compress. It's another one of the muscles that helps in breathing, and it starts at the ilium crest. So it starts down here in the bottom, and then goes up, and it attaches to the inguinal ligament. What else did I cover? Where does it insert? So it inserts in the pubis, and the linea alba and the sternum. So it inserts down here. We keep putting my finger in the way. Down here. What else do we got? Psoas major. So psoas major. So the psoas major starts at T12 and also lumbar 1 through 5. So down here at the bottom, this is where it starts, and then it goes down to the trochanter, the lesser trochanter, the little bump over here on the femur. And it assists in the flexion of the thigh, the rotation of the thigh, and it also, what does it do? The flexion, lateral flexion. That's what it was. When you twist your body like that. Iliacus. So the iliacus is pretty simple. It mounts on the fossa, or it starts at the fossa of the ilium, um, and it goes down to the femur, same spot as the psoas major, or in the same, not the trochanter, but in the same area. It attaches to the femur, and it assists in flexion of the thigh also, just like the psoas or major. So the internal intercostals are right up here. Internal is pretty self-explanatory. They're on the inside. Um, they line the inside cavity. They basically they start at the top part of the rib and the superior part, and they end and insert in the bottom part, in the inferior part. Um, the whole internal intercostals assist in breathing, and respiration and depression of the ribs. So during forced exhalation, so you squeeze and you're squeezing out the pressure of your lungs to get the air out. So that's what these guys do. The next guys are external intercostals. Those do the same thing basically, but well, not the same thing, but the exact opposite, complementary. They help in inhalation. So they start on the bottom and then they end at the top. So they're the complementary of the internal intercostals. Let's see, what do they do? I said that. Um, Insertion. Yeah, good. What's the next one? Serratus anterior. Sorry, I had to find my serratus anterior. I was looking for it on the wrong side. So basically, this guy starts on these ribs 1 through 8, and it attaches to the scapula, and it provides for the scapula to abduct, so it to move away from the body, um, and yeah. Okay, so pectoralis minor. It starts on these ribs, 3 through 5, and it goes to the scapula in the back, right over here. And it basically assists in abducting the scapula also. So the diaphragm is the last one in this thoracic area. So it basically attaches in different places. So lumbar 1 through 3, down here, oh, down here, 1 through 3, and goes up, ribs 5 through 10, and then in the front, it attaches at the xiphoid process down here at the tip of the sternum. And basically, when you contract your diaphragm, you are flattening it, which basically leaves more room for you to inhale. All right, so now we're on to the piriformis, which is over here, right here. So this guy starts at the femur, goes up to the sacrum right here, anterior surface in the front, and it's for lateral rotation of the thigh. So when you try to put your leg out like this, oh wait, out that way. So yeah, that was it. So action, origin, insertion, yes. So then what else do we have here? So we'll go to gluteus minimus. So the gluteus minimus attaches or starts at the ilium, right here at the ala, and it goes down here and attaches and inserts at the femur, and it basically it's for also for abduction of the thigh, so similar to the piriformis, and so it's for abduction of the thigh when you pull your leg out to the side. The next one, just above it or outside of it, is the gluteus medius. It's a little bigger. It's the same thing. It attaches. Well, actually, it attaches a little bit higher. So the gluteus medius, it attaches at the ilium, at the ala, right up here, and it goes down. It goes down to the femur, and the same thing, down to the big part, the greater trochanter, and it does the same thing. It's for abduction of the thigh. Pretty much the same, but just a bigger muscle than the medius or than the minimus. Then you have the gluteus maximus. It's this pink one. It's pink, so it's an extensor, and it's for the extension of the thigh and the lateral rotation of the thigh. It attaches ilium up here, sacrum, a little bit of the coccyx, and then it comes down and it attaches to the femur. Down here at the gluteal tuberosity, and it's for extension of the thigh and abduction of the thigh. So when you pull your leg back, what else do we have on the list? So the next one is the tensor fasciae lata. So this guy starts at the ilium, the crest of the anterior iliac. Sorry. I didn't really see that. Right here. And it's got this ITB band, so it goes down. It's not really big. The muscle's kind of small, and then the ITB band continues, and then it inserts down here at the tibial, iliotibial tract, down here. Oh, and it assists in flexion of the femur. So when you pull your leg up, or even pulling your leg to the side, or turning your leg in. What else? The ITB band, it comes over and it goes over and stabilizes your knee also. What else do we have here? So then the next guy is sartorius. So I realized after I looked at that sartorius isn't on my list. I mean, it's on my list, but Dave's going to do that one. So the next thing on the list, iliacus. So the iliacus is on this fossa. Wait, we did that one already. Sorry. Yes, we did that one already. So then, the psoas major. Oh, we did that one already too. Oh yeah. All right, David's taking over. I'll probably end up helping him because I think he had more muscles to do than I did. Thanks. So after I reviewed my video a little bit, I realized I forgot one. I spoke about it, but I didn't finish. So the pectoralis major, it's a flexor. It's the pec muscle, and basically it starts from the clavicular head, the sternum, intercostal cartilage is over here, where the origin is, and it goes all the way over the humerus right over here, and it's used to abduct your arm, to rotate it. What else is it used for? It's a big muscle.
All right, it's my turn with Mr. Thrifty here. Gunther has already gone through kind of the axial portions, front and back, anterior and posterior. I'm going to start covering the appendicular areas, so that's obviously all the limbs. We're going to start with the superficial muscles of the shoulder. So underneath the trapezius muscle here, we've got the rhomboid major, rhomboid minor, and the levator scapulae. All of these muscles kind of help with the shrugging, kind of motion. Levator scapulae they all insert on the scapula in different locations. Levitator scapulae originates from C1 to C4 along the spinous process. Rhomboid minor originates on C7 and T1. C7, I think that's the pons.
Oh yeah.
A little projection that sticks out there. And then rhomboid major, so that's T2 through 5 is where that originates. And both the rhomboid major and minor take part in the adduction of the shoulders or scapula, which I'm guessing is kind of pulling back like that. And okay, now we're going to go to the deep scapular muscles. Obviously, deep means they're below the rhomboids and this levitator here. So we've got the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, teres minor, teres major, and on the other side here, kind of underneath, in between the rib cage and the scapula, is your subscapularis. All of these originate on the scapula and insert into the humerus at various points. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor all insert on the greater tubercle, where the subscapularis inserts on the lesser tubercle of the humerus here. And supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis, all of these muscles combined kind of help hold the whole humeral head into the glenoid cavity here. So that kind of holds the whole shoulder into place and also works on its motions. Okay, the action of these is kind of clear as to where they lie here. So the supraspinatus works in adducting the arm, so that kind of helps pull it out like that. Infraspinatus, teres minor kind of help with the medial rotation, and the subscapularis with the lateral and then medial rotation. And then the teres major, which also originates on the scapula and inserts kind of on the proximal shaft of the humerus here, helps with pretty much everything. Adduction of the arm, which is coming back down, as well as part of the rotation of it. So that covers the superficial, deep muscles of the shoulder. And we'll move on to the upper arm next. Okay, so moving on to the muscles of the upper arm, we're going to start on the anterior side here with the big biceps muscles. So we have biceps brachii, brachialis, and the coracobrachialis on the front here. All of these help with flexion of the arm, obviously. They do a couple other things, but that's their main function, is the big flexing we do. So the biceps brachialis, biceps brachii, originates up. They're a little low here, but they actually come up and originate in the coracoids process and the other spot here on the scapula. And then they'll come down and actually insert on both the ulna and the radius. So this covers the whole length of the arm, connecting the scapula all the way down through the lower arm here. And this biceps brachii also can help with some of the supination, which is the turning out to face forward. Okay, so the coracoid brachialis that originates up on the coracoid process, hence coraco, and then brachialis comes down, meets up with the brachii here. Again, flexion of the arm. This also helps with the, I would say, adduction of the arm based on its location there. And then you got the brachialis, which originates just kind of in the mid shaft of the humerus here, and then inserts down on the ulna. And that also, no, that's it. That one just helps with that. It doesn't really help in any sort of the rotational movements at all. And that's it for that. We'll move to the posterior arm now. So the posterior side, we have the triceps brachii. That's the only one we're going to be covering back here. It has triceps because it's got the 3 branches to it, hence tri. It's got the long head that originates on the glenoid process of the scapula, and then the medial lateral heads just originate on the humerus here, and then it inserts on the, is that the olecranon? I'm looking to Gunther for verification there.
Yes.
Olecranon of the ulna here, and this, based on its location, obviously involved an extension of the arm. That's all we're covering it kind of on the posterior side of the upper arm there. There's a lot more on the lower arm, which we're going to move to now. Bless you. So continuing on the posterior side of the forearm here, we've got the deep muscles within the posterior forearm. So we've got the abductor pollicis longus, the extensor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis, and all of these actually partake in the action of extension of the thumb, with the abductor pollicis longus obviously helping with the abduction of the thumb as well, which these are stiff, you can't show that, but extension of all of this. The abductor pollicis longus originates up on the, which tubercle is that? Is that a tubercle? So that's the, oh no, that would be the olecranon again of the ulna. So yeah, basically the distal end of the ulna, or proximal end of the ulna there, and continues down to the base of the first metacarpal on the thumb there. The extensor pollicis longus originates mid-shaft of the ulna there and continues down to the more distal, distal phalanx of the thumb. Extensor pollicis brevis at the distal end of the ulna and the medial phalanx of the thumb, maybe. But they all kind of come down to that same area and do that extension. Also on here is the extender indices. And this is indices, obviously this is for the index, extension of the index finger. Does the same thing with an origination down at the distal end of the ulna and the insertion at the distal phalanx of the index finger. Okay, so on the posterior, these are going to be the deep muscles of the the superficial muscles of the deep. Wow, abort. Start that one again. So we're on the superficial muscles of the posterior forearm here. We got the extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor carpi radialis longus, the extensor carpi radialis brevis, which all of these three have the action of extension more of the wrist. The deeper ones, we're controlling the fingers. These superficial ones control the wrist. There's also the extensor digiti minimi, which is just kind of the little finger is all it really takes care of. Extensor carpi radialis brevis and radialis longus both originate on the, that makes that lateral epicondyle of the humerus and then insert in the second metacarpal on the fingers here. And then the extensor carpi ulnaris originates on the medial side and inserts on the first metacarpal of the, first metacarpal, of the little finger there.
Siri, we're busy.
Yeah.
Flip off.
So that's it. And sorry, the longus and the brevis of the radialis carpi help with, as well as the carpi ulnaris, help with adduction and abduction of the wrist. Okay, so we're going to move on to the anterior forearm now. There's actually deep middle and superficial muscles here. A lot of them are the flexors, obviously, because of those locations they're going to help flexing the wrists. We're going to start with a couple of separate ones that don't have anything to do with that, which is the pronator quadratus and the pronation teres. The pronator quadratus is a deep muscle that originates on the ulna and inserts on the radius. And the pronation teres, which is a middle muscle, it's not deep, not superficial, that originates on the medial epicondyle of the humerus and inserts on the coronoid ridge of the radius here. And obviously based on their name, pronation, pronator, both of these muscles help in the pronation of the forearm. Okay, so stepping back to some of these flexor muscles, in the deep side of the anterior forearm, we have flexor digitorum superficialis and flexor digitorum profundus. And these, both of these help with the flexion of fingers 2 through 5, which obviously can't do here with the rigid fingers of this. So flexor digitorum profundus originates on the proximal shaft of the ulna and inserts on the distal digits of the fingers, the distal phalanges of the fingers. And then the flexor digitorum superficialis originates on the medial epicondyle of the humerus and inserts on the, if they're not distal, they're proximal phalanges or middle phalanges of fingers 2 through 5. And obviously this is all for flexion of these fingers. And we also have flexor pollicis longus, which helps with flexion of the thumb. It originates on the proximal end of the radius. It also originates with some of the interosseous membrane in here, as well as along the radius as well, and then inserts in the distal phalanx of the thumb and helps with flexion of the thumb. So next we're working towards the superficial muscles of the forearm. Most of these are the flexor muscles of the wrist. We've got brachioradialis, which originates on that's the lateral epicondyle of the humerus and inserts into the, I think that's the styloid process of the radius there. And then this, again, helps with flexion of the wrist, but also has a lot to do with pronation and supination of the forearm. So moving to the flexor muscles in the superficial anterior forearm, we have flexor carpi ulnaris, flexor carpi radialis. All of these, both of these are involved in flexion of the wrist here. They both originate up on the medial epicondyle of the humerus. The flexor carpi radialis inserts in the metatarsals here, and the flexor carpi ulnaris inserts on a couple of the carpal bones, the pisiform and the hamate, I want to say. Don't hold me to that one. So these guys, again, flex in the wrist, and they also help with abduction and adduction of the wrist. It's amazing what the body can do. And then we also have in here is the palmaris longus, which also originates up on the medial epicondyle of the humerus and inserts in the carpal bones of the hand here. This one also with flexion of the wrist, and I'm going to look this one up on a piece of paper because I can't remember how to pronounce it. But this also kind of holds in place what is the palmar aponeurosis, which is a fibrous complex that helps hold kind of everything in place, and the palm kind of maintain its stability and structure. Now we'll start moving to the lower. Okay, so we're going to move on to the muscles of the upper leg. And we're going to start with the abductor muscles. Obviously, abductor, so these muscles help with the, adduction. So these muscles have everything to do with the adduction of the thigh and leg here. So we have the adductor longus, adductor magnus, adductor brevis, as well as the pectineus. All these pre-labeled adductor muscles originate in the inferior ramus of the pubis, and then insert in various portions along the femur here, along the linea aspera and the upper part of the femur for the brevis. The pectineus muscle originates in the superior ramus of the pubis and then inserts on the just top of the femur, proximal portion of the femur here. And the pectineus can actually help with some of the flexion and rotation of the upper thigh as well as the adduction that it does. So moving on to a couple of anterior thigh muscles here, we have the sartorius, which originates on the iliac spine of the pubis and inserts on the shaft of the tibia, essentially, proximal shaft of the tibia. And obviously this covers a whole large area here from the pubis down to the lower leg, and acts as, it does a lot of things, the flexion, rotation, as well as some of the adduction of the upper leg. We also have the gracilis, which originates kind of on the body of the inferior portion of the pubis here and inserts on the same thing, proximal portion of the tibia. Covers a large area and its action is a lot of the same things, the flexion as well as the abduction, some of the rotation of the upper leg. So continuing on the anterior side of the upper leg here, we're going to get to the quadriceps group. Quadriceps, quad 4, obviously. We've got the rictus femoris, the vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and vastus lateralis. These all help with the flexion of the leg, and don't do much other than that. That's their main goal in life, is flexion of the leg. So the vastus lateralis originates, as well as the intermedius. These originate near the upper proximal part of the femur by the greater truncator here, as well as have some attachment to the linea aspera. The vastus medialis originates just a little bit lower than that, and they all insert at the patellar tendon here. Obviously, the patellar tendon attaches to the patella, and they all kind of intersect with that area, and that's your quadricep muscles. Forgot about the rictus femoris. That originates up at that'd be the posterior spine of the iliac spine, and then inserts with the same patella tendons, and also helps with the flexion of the leg there. So as we move to the posterior portion of the upper leg here, we've got our hamstrings group, which includes the biceps femoris, the semitendinosus, and the semimembranosus. These all have the same function of flexion of the leg and extension of flexion of the lower leg and extension of the thigh. The biceps femoris, they all originate on the tuberosity of the iliac. Tuberosity of the ischium. Tuberosity of the ischium. The biceps femoris inserts on the proximal end of the fibula, and the semitendinosus and semimembranosus insert on the medial epicondyle portion of the tibia. And that's your hamstrings. So we're just going to keep moving down towards the posterior lower leg here. We're going to start deep to superficial here with some of the major muscles that are involved in the flexion, plantar flexion. You can't quite see that, plantar flexion of the foot. The deep portion, we've got the tibialis posterius, and then over that you've got the soleus, and then over that it's on the other side here, which, there we go, much better. We got the gastrocnemius. So the tibialis posterius originates kind of up in just the proximal end of the tibia there, and then it kind of curls around and actually moves towards the front of the foot, and its insertions are several of the carpal bones, several of the tarsal bones, several of the tarsal bones, as well as some of the metatarsal bones. And that actually has some actions with the inversion of the foot, which you can't demonstrate on this. It's just a little too rigid. So that's deep. Over that, you got the soleus, which originates in the proximal shaft of the tibia fibia here, and inserts in the calcaneus via the calcaneus or Achilles tendon. The only action, I remember this because solo action of this is flexion on the foot. It doesn't actually do anything else. And then you got the gastrocnemius, which is more superficial. That's your clear calf muscle. This originates on both the medial and lateral condyles of the femur. It's a little low here, but it would kind of be up further here. And then it inserts as well into the calcaneus. And that does the flexion of the foot as well, and can partake in a little bit of inversion and eversion. So two more. Sorry for the last set there. I realized I was out of view, but my face is back in there. Lucky you. The flexor digitorum longus and the flexor hallexus longus. So the flexor digitorum longus has an origin on the midshaft of the tibia, and inserts down along the phalanges of the toes 2 through 5. So this is obviously flexion with the toes there. So toes 2 through 5 are going to flex with this particular muscle, and then the flexor hallucis longus originates on the kind of upper mid shaft of the that's your fibula, and then inserts down on the phalanx of the great toe, or the hallux, hence hallucis, and that's involved with flexion of the great toe, as well as a little bit of plantar flexion and some inversion and eversion. Okay, so last but not least, we're going to move on to the anterior portions of the lower leg here. We're going to start with the tibialis anterior, as well as the peroneus, or the fibularis longus and brevis. The tibialis anterior originates on the tibia, obviously tibialaris, kind of on the proximal end of that, and then it inserts down onto the first metatarsal, down on the first metatarsal. And this, the action of this is kind of dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion is when you go down like that, so dorsiflexion, as well as some eversion, or inversion of the foot, which is kind of pulling in like that. And then we've got the peroneus, or fibularis longus and brevis, that originates at the proximal end of the fibula, right in the shaft there, and then it inserts, the fibularis longus actually inserts on the first metatarsal, and the fibularis brevis inserts on the fifth metatarsal. And the action of this is, obviously, because it splits in the end there, it goes out to both sides. That helps with the inversion and eversion of the foot. And then finally, we've got the extensor digitorum longus and extensor hallucis longus. The extensor digitorum longus actually inserts, we've got a little low here, it inserts on the medial condyle of the tibia, as well as has attachments on the fibula there, and then stretches out to the distal phalanges of toes 2 through 5, and they're involved obviously through extension of the toes 2 through 5. The extensor hallucis longus originates kind of mid-shaft of the fibula here, and inserts down in the middle phalanx of the great toe, or hallux, hallucis, and this helps with extension of your big toe, and both of these kind of can help with eversion, inversion, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion of the feet. And that's it. So that's everything. That's axial, appendicular, all the muscle mans. Mr. Thrifty here has done a great job for us. I guess we're done.
Cool.
So thanks for watching, and hope you learned something. I know I did.
I did too, actually, from yours.